Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Outsource Advantage. I'm your host, Derek Kissos. I'm really excited for our guest today, Megan Mokri with Byte Technologies. Megan, thank you so much for coming on board the show today.
Happy to be here, Derek.
Great. Megan, for those who aren't familiar with Byte, I'm very familiar with it, especially in the healthcare space. I see you guys all over the place. Can you talk to me a little bit about your role as CEO of Byte, but also just Byte in general?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Megan Mokri. I'm CEO of Byte. I'm also one of the co-founders. Company is turning 10 this year, which is pretty exciting for us. But what Byte does in a nutshell is we create unattended kiosks, ambient cases, coolers, now freezers that can be used in hospitals, workplaces, college campuses, really anywhere you wish to sell food completely unattended. And the company really started, our mission was really to make the most convenient choice a healthy choice. So when you typically look at vending, you've got, bags of chips and Snickers bars, and we wanted to see sandwiches and salads and, hummus cups. So that was the why for how we got started.
Thanks, Megan. It's funny. I'm a weirdo. I love Pop-Tarts, and so I try to find vending machines with Pop-Tarts. It's becoming very, very rare to find that, and so I'm always unhappy. But can you talk to me a little bit now, coming up on your 10-year anniversary? What really started you and the team to create Byte, and where did that desire to kind of launch it come from?
So we've had an interesting path to get to where we are today. We actually started, when we first started the business, we were doing meal delivery. So we didn't look anything like what we look like today. But when we were delivering, healthy meals to homes, we really found yes, people want convenient access to healthier food, but delivering it directly to the home is in most instances not financially viable unless you're at incredible scale. And so we really rethought, where are these people spending time during the day? They're at work, they're going to school, they're, in community centers and whatnot. So we really thought, okay, how do we embed storefronts where people are spending time away from home? And that was the original impetus behind Byte and these unattended storefronts. We spent the first half of the company's history actually operating these kiosks ourselves. So we had deliveries on the road, we sourced all of our own product, and we really understood the nuts and bolts of operating this at scale. But ultimately, we found let's get this into as many people's hands as possible so that we can be powering this platform across the United States. And so that's how we really transitioned to being a technology platform as opposed to just an operator.
Was that a tough switch? You always hear stories on either it's really easy or it was culturally a tough shift. And so I guess two-part question, changing a business model like that can have its challenges, but what was the toughest parts about that when you made that switch to kind of go from you guys doing everything to now using channel partners, being more of just a technology platform, those types of things?
Yeah, there was about a year period where we had to split our team into two different teams. So we had one team that was really operating, the business was called Byte Foods. So operating the kiosks in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then we had our technology team and the sales team. And it was challenging because we really did have to think, okay, now we're a technology company. Let's think of Byte Foods as just another customer among many. But ultimately it was the right decision because it allowed us to get this tech and really fulfill our mission in a much faster way than if we had been rolling out market by market.
Does Byte Foods still exist?
It does. It's no longer Byte Foods. It was purchased by another food service operator in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And how about your meal delivery? Do you guys still do any of that in pockets, or is it now solely into just Byte Technologies?
Solely Byte Technology. Meal delivery is a thing of the far, far distant past.
Well, that must make your role a lot easier. Well, not easy. Never being a CEO is never easy, but at least you don't have all of these different swim lanes.
Exactly.
What I would call it. I'm going to say, I don't want to say vending, right? Because I think Byte Technologies.
No, you can say vending. I think it's fair, Derek. I've struggled with this over the years. It is vending. I think that's what we all know, right? We know what a vending machine is. This is a vending machine initially for fresh food, but now we have freezers. Now we have ambient cases, but
Right.
you can say vending. It's not a dirty word anymore.
Okay, great. I appreciate, I think of vending, I think of the Skittles and other things in the machine, and
Yeah.
which is why I always caution myself on that, because this is so different, right? You're getting fresh goods in there. What are the things that for Byte Technologies you feel are differentiated with you versus the competition out there?
I think of kind of three pillars. First and foremost is that it's completely unattended. It's an unattended store, and so you can place it anywhere and have a storefront selling product 24/7. The second piece is that it's checkout free. So for the consumers actually going at to buy a sandwich or a drink or snacks or whatnot, once they present their payment in order to unlock the kiosk, they can grab whatever they wish, grab multiple items, and then once they close the door, the kiosk is intelligent. It knows what was taken from inventory and charges that customer accordingly. So from a consumer perspective, we're always told it's the most seamless and delightful shopping experience for that end consumer. And then the third piece is just it's a very small footprint. So these kiosks they're 2x2. I think of them as Lego building blocks. So if somebody wants to set up a proper retail experience where they've got several Byte smart coolers and smart freezers and ambient cases, they can do that. Or they can simply, deploy a single kiosk within an existing location, because it can basically be put anywhere that has an outlet.
Yeah, that's great. Talk to me a little bit about, I love the aspect of yours, and I use Apple Pay with your devices just because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
But, my favorite thing about it is being able to do that and opening the door and grabbing what I want and not worried about those little spiral things and doesn't get stuck in traditional vending, right?
Yeah.
But what's the back end technology on that? And I'm not meaning to get specifics, but there's multiple different ways people do that.
Yeah.
And so how does Byte do that in terms of understanding, when I open that door and shut that door, what products did I take to accurately charge me?
Yeah, so Byte uses RFID technology. So basically every product has a small RFID tag that's placed on it. And that provides the operator all kinds of information. First and foremost, it allows the kiosk to know what exactly is in inventory. And we know down to the granularity of how long each individual product was in there. It allows you to do some really intelligent things. So from an operator perspective, it's very easy, because when you show up and you want to restock products, you simply open the door as a restocker, remove any product that you need to remove, add any product you need to add, and the kiosk does all the work to count it. So there's no cycle counts, there's no manual updating of the kiosk to know what's in inventory. And then let's say you're selling very fresh product, because you know how long a specific salad has been on the shelf, and the system knows the shelf life days. You can get into some advanced discounting based on shelf life, where if that salad has 1 day or less left, I want to discount it by 50%. The system can automatically do that. It helps you as an operator minimize spoilage and waste.
And I'm assuming this is all done in the cloud, correctly? So
It's all done in the cloud through our online dashboard. Yep, exactly right.
That's great. And then as an operator, I don't know the nuts and bolts of how this works, so pardon my questions. Are there alerts that get sent to the staff who are refilling these, or if there's about to be expired goods? Can you just explain a little bit on how that goes into some early warning notices?
Yeah, so the dashboard is kind of home base for getting all the reporting and data that you need on the kiosk. Alerts can be set up for kind of more health safety concerns. If a kiosk is out of temperature, we can set up automatic lockdowns. If a kiosk is over temperature, any issues from a technology standpoint, our operators can be notified. And then of course you're able to see, I'm out of stock of these turkey cheese sandwiches. I need to get out there and restock it.
Yeah, that's great. And also on that dashboard, there's all the retail sales numbers, right, too. So that is kind of your whole one-stop shop.
Yeah, exactly right. So you see all your transaction data. You can have historic visibility into what products were actually added to the machine, what products were removed as spoilage during restocking. Gotcha. That's where you can set up all your discounting. You can create coupons. If you want to create coupons for like new employees, for instance, you can do all kinds of stuff. all through our
Wow, that's
dashboard.
interesting.
Yeah.
Megan, how did you get to Byte? Like even Byte Foods back, what's your background that kind of
Yeah.
led you to be a co-founder in this exciting business?
I have no background in food. So I really my background was in online advertising. I had worked at a few startups
Gotcha.
at Yahoo, but really nothing related to the food space. I'm just very passionate about food and healthy food and the impact that it has really on our well-being, on our communities. There's no space that you can be in and more positively impact the world, in my opinion, than in
Yeah.
the food space. Um, so it was a kind of a naive. They always say entrepreneurs naively get into these spaces, and I fit in that category.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I didn't have a ton of healthcare experience before coming to HHS, and
Oh,
people always
interesting.
ask me, "Oh, have you been doing this forever?" And I said, "No, I've been doing it for 4 years since I've been
Yeah,
at HHS."
that's
But that's
amazing.
interesting. Yeah,
Well, sometimes
um,
not having that long history, and you're able
that's
to look
right.
at things a little bit differently.
That's right. Exactly. One of the neat things I think about on Byte, in contrast to typical vending, you kind of have those sterile vending units. Yes, there are some different ones out there, but typically they're, much bigger than a 2x2 footprint. They're wide
Yeah.
and kind of that sterile branding.
Hmm.
Some of the things I've seen with you guys is really neat in terms of, every Byte machine can look drastically different based
Hmm.
off if you're going to have an operator's logo on it, a facilities logo on it, or just something that's trendy or generic in general, not about an operator or a vendor
Yeah.
or a facility. Can you talk to me what led you down that path? Has it always been that way? Have you gotten feedback and to how you design it? But I just love the creativity that you guys could do from an overall branding of the machine. And was that always in place, or is that something that you guys are looking to do even more of?
Yeah, Derek, I can't take credit for this. This is like the creativity of our clients, really. There is a lot of space on the kiosk itself to
Yeah.
brand, and a big nice glass front, and it really is the creativity of our clients that makes them look beautiful. Not only with the branding and the skinning of the kiosk, but also with the products that they're stocking. So that's our that's all of our clients.
That's great. So pivoting from that, but in the same line, talk on research and development.
Hmm.
From my vantage point, you guys are great in getting feedback. We leverage your product.
Hmm.
Um, what's your typical R&D path? Like, where do you get your feedback from mostly? How does that make it way into new versions, technology, features, etc.?
Yeah, we have R&D really on three fronts. There's the
Okay.
hardware itself. There is the software that's actually operating on the kiosk itself. So, for instance, how we actually know what's in inventory, how we know what to charge individuals, how we monitor the health of the kiosk itself. And then there's software on the back end. So, like the online dashboard, how you create discounts and get reporting and whatnot. We host now quarterly kind of customer summits and where we
Oh, wow.
are, we're talking about what we're working on now, what's coming, and then we're getting direct feedback. So we are very much a customer-led organization where we're listening to what our customers want. That's why we launched freezer. Is everybody said we've got to get a freezer, but that's really how we think about what to be working on and when.
Yeah, that's great. So then, taking that a step further, anything interesting coming out in the near future? I obviously only what you can share. I know R&D roadmaps are sometimes, for obvious reasons, secretive. But are
Hmm.
there any big next steps? I know freezers was a recent one, or at
Yeah.
least relatively recent. But
Yeah.
anything new coming down the pike that Byte is excited about?
I think the most recent one is our full lineup of kiosks. So we now ambient cases, coolers, of course, that's our bread and butter. We now have extra large versions of both of those, and then the freezer. We've partnered pretty closely now with several leasing partners that have really
Hmm.
brought the monthly pricing down. So these leasing partners can not only bundle the cost of the kiosk itself, but then the license and connectivity fees, where instead
Wow.
of paying for something up front, you're paying, $250 to $350 a month. Really opens up the attractiveness for people. And then on the dashboard side, it's a lot of work around reporting and then just
I see.
exposing our platform via APIs. So for some of our more advanced partners, they can actually pull data themselves into, whatever whatever software they might be using.
Reporting is always a tricky one because no two customers want it the same way, and so you've got to
Very
find that
true.
sweet spot that at least you get to the vast majority of it.
100%.
Um, when we're talking about technology, I have a little bit of a background in technology, and when I'm talking to organizations like yourselves, I always like to find out what's been something that you as a co-founder and CEO have found as one of the biggest challenges. I'd probably say just over the last 5 years since you've pivoted kind of
Yeah.
full stack into technology. What's been the biggest challenge or series of challenges in life today as we know it with Byte Technologies?
Specifically from a technical perspective
No, in
or as
general,
an
just since,
organization? Yeah.
yeah, just in
COVID.
general, after you, well,
COVID. That's an easy
yeah,
answer.
that's
Um,
amazing. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
a great answer.
it's on I think it was March 16th, right? When everything shut down. That next day, our transactions dropped across the fleet and like 75%.
Wow.
It was fun times, but ultimately it's made our organization much more robust. It's really pre-COVID, we were largely in workplaces, and so we were even
Yeah.
more acutely impacted. And now we're in just such a much more diverse set of locations with our customers. So it was a tough couple of years, but ultimately to the benefit of the organization. What's the saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Funny story about COVID is, as you referenced the March date. I actually joined HHS February 28th of that year, and I'm scheduled to go to some travel to meet with some folks, and that's when the world shut down. And I look at my wife and I go, "Oh my goodness, what did
Yeah.
I just do?" Right. Luckily, it ended up working out, but yeah, such a crazy time.
It really was.
Um, so flipping that on its head a little bit, moving to challenges, obviously in your purview, this could go in many different directions, but what is one or two things that, as CEO and co-founder, you're most proud of, over the last, five, and I'm bucketing this to the last 5 years when you guys have made that pivot, but
Sure.
don't feel constrained by that. But I always think it's interesting to hear from some C-suite executives like yourself, like what are the things that you're really proud of that your organization has done?
I'd say there's two. First is the team that we've built. We have, I think the average tenure at Byte is like approaching 4 years, which
Wow.
in startup land is quite a long time. So really, really
Yeah.
proud of the team. And then second is it's the customers that we work with. And um, organizations like HHS, which are so impressive in terms of the work you're doing, to like juice shops in Marfa, Texas that are selling thousands of dollars worth of juice a month out of our kiosk, to a pie shop
Yeah.
in Alabama that's selling like $10,000 worth of pies every month out of a Byte kiosk.
Jeez.
It's just the stories and use cases that we see every day are they really fire me up and the team up too. It's really cool to see what our customers are doing with the technology.
Yeah, that's really neat. One question I ask all my guests, if they're similar to you, is, we have we come across a lot of entrepreneurial spirits, a lot of people who are, serial startup kings or queens, as I call
Mm-hmm.
them. If someone's out there, and obviously you don't want a competitor to Byte, more and more of those popping up, but if
Mm-hmm.
they're looking to get into a space and are struggling, I think your story is unique where you had a model, you branched that off, and then you really went all in on another.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be about this, but could you talk a little bit about if there are any audience members listening to this who are thinking about getting into a new space or their organizations at a pivotal point, like you guys were a couple years ago? Can you give any advice to the listeners on, either the intestinal fortitude to make a tough decision or how you balance that, just in general?
I remember this was a long time ago. This was almost 10 years ago. I was in business school in some kind of entrepreneurship class, and they had a founder come in, and he looked at the class and he's like, "Do not start a business unless you are willing to sign up for 8+ years of, having your nose to the grindstone." It was like 8 years. Yeah, right. Come on. Sounds ridiculous. Here, 10 years in, you know? So I think that in reflecting on that, what's really important is that you really have to be um, greatly tied to the mission of your business. And that mission has been like true from the meal delivery days to when we were operating the service ourselves to now being the technology platform. That is the through line on all of it. And that is kind of our cornerstone of what we come back to when times get tough. So I would say you really got to find a mission that you greatly believe in and are willing to put in the time to see achieve, because it takes time to build a business.
You know, it's interesting. You said something that jogged a thought in my head. And I don't know the legalities of what I'm allowed to do on these. This podcasting is all new to me, so I'll just give some generals. But there's a newer podcast out there, and it's in the basketball world.
Okay.
And it's LeBron James and JJ Redick. You obviously probably know LeBron James' name.
Yeah.
If you're not a basketball fan, may not know JJ Redick's name. But they were talking about, how do you go from an NBA player to a great, right? Like all-star Hall of Famer. And LeBron said something that I thought was so critical, not for the sports and athletes, but for business owners and entrepreneurials, which was not only like the love of the game and the passion and all those things. I think we can all equate to that. But he said it's the sacrifice that your family and friends and those have to be comfortable with. And, I think about that every day now. And I just listened to this podcast. But, when you said it's 8 years of grinding, it's not just grinding in the business world, right? It's grinding on all aspects. Like that has to be your sole focus in life. So I respect greatly people like yourself who do that when, I'm just in a corporate office, didn't start anything myself. And can you talk, not personal sacrifice on that front, but just how difficult that's been for the last 10 years and staying focused, even if times get tough, especially through the pandemic, and just how you've kind of dealt with that?
Yeah, I think it's that when you can stack up kind of consistently showing up day after day over nearly 10 years, you can build something. And so there's kind of that element of discipline of just continuing to show up and do the work. And some days are grind, some days are not. I mean, after a certain number of years in and stability, there is some reprieve, but kind of it's just doing the work, as with anything, right?
Yeah.
With you want to build muscles, you just got to go to the gym.
That's right.
So it's just showing up and doing the work, delivering a consistently great solution for our customers. And that's allowed us to be at the place where we are now. And I still feel like we're just getting started, to be honest.
Megan, I got a weird one for you. Where is the most interesting either business or place you guys have a Byte Technology machine today? The pie shop's a good one.
The pie shop's
so I'm going to ask you. I want to try a pie from a pie shop.
But it's in a town of 11,000 people. This is a very small town in Alabama, and it is selling that much in pies. It's remarkable. I don't know if you've ever heard of Marfa, Texas. Texas is okay. So that's right. You're in Austin, right? It's
about 6 hours from me, I think. Okay. If I'm accurate. Yeah. West.
So there is it's called Little Juice, and they have a kiosk in what looks like an abandoned warehouse. And it's beautifully merchandised, beautiful product, loyal customer base, and they're killing it. We have kiosks in San Quentin Prison in the Bay Area for their employee base. That employee base has very high rates of chronic disease, and getting out of prison and going somewhere, it's not a possibility. So so having fresh food there is really important. So we got all kinds of odd ones.
I'm going to have to get with you offline to figure out where this pie shop is. I'm a very large pie fan.
Okay, great.
So the next time I'm in, you said Alabama?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. No, that's fantastic. Okay, so switching, we talked about if entrepreneurs are out there listening, if there are customers, partners like ourselves, et cetera, who are out there looking to either bolster, reimagine, or get into this space, and they're looking to leverage a company like Byte Technologies, what are the things they should really be asking, as they're evaluating? Because they may not just come to Byte. A lot of the times people do the roll of threes, or they want to get information from 3 different companies. What are the questions that occasionally people may not think of to ask to get to the actual solution they want?
That's a good question. I think, really considering the location and the needs of the location. So if you're looking at a healthcare campus or a hospital, what we oftentimes hear like the needs of second and third shift, having healthy options when the cafeteria is closed. So really thinking about the needs, thinking about the product that you're already producing. If you're running a cafeteria, that can very easily be slotted into the kiosk, kind of a starting point. And that gives you a sense of your need for, are you going to be doing one cooler? Or are you going to do, a rollout of several coolers, freezers, ambient cases? So get a sense of your needs. And a sense of the team that would be operating on a day-to-day basis. And then when you're talking with potential partners, not only I think that understanding the technology and the operations of what it will look like using this on an ongoing basis is important, but talk to them about onboarding and what that experience looks like. Because I think that's probably the most important part of the engagement is like how your team is trained on setting up these kiosks and really thinking about how these fit into your existing operations. Because it shouldn't be off on an island over here where only one person knows how to use it. It really should be thought of as this solution is now part of the overall retail experience at this location.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny, and I'm bouncing all over here, so thank you for just being patient with me.
Good.
But I had to ask someone the other day, what does ambient cooler mean? I had never heard that term before in my life, and they explained it to me, which I think is great. So can you explain the difference between, obviously, cooler and freezer people
Yes.
may know, but if you're not in this space, you may not know what ambient means. And so do you mind just kind of explaining those range of products?
Yeah. An ambient case is basically, it's held at about 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can sell any shelf stable items in there. We have clients that are selling more retail type items in there. Basically anything that doesn't need to be refrigerated or frozen can be sold through an ambient case. Whereas a cooler, you're selling kind of fresh product, temperature sensitive product, freezer, frozen meals, pizzas, ice creams, novelties, etc.
That's great. So, Megan, if people want to get in touch with Byte Technologies, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can either go to our website, byte with a Y, technology.co, and reach out to us there, or email me directly. I'm Megan, without an H, at byte with a Y, technology.co.
Great. And I'll make sure that the team links something, however they do their magic, to make sure people don't have to get their pen out. I'm going to ask you something here that I try to ask all my guests. Tell us something about you that's interesting, or a fun fact, hobby, etc., that might be unique.
I am a huge gardener. So I've got like 50 fruit trees and like 10 raised garden beds at my house. I love gardening. So it's springtime, although winter has not left California at this point. So I'm getting ready to put out all of my veggie starts and whatnot.
Oh, that's exciting, especially in the line of work you're in now.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. That's the first gardening response I've gotten. So
nice.
you're first on that front.
It's not that exciting, but it is a fun fact, I guess.
It's not, but it's very difficult. I tried to garden a little bit a few years ago, and the only thing I've been able to grow is peppers. And the only time I can grow peppers is if they're in a pot.
Okay.
And
great.
so I've given up on it. I've just said I must have a brown thumb, not a green thumb. So it's much harder than it looks. Well, Megan, appreciate you having on. Any parting thoughts that you have for the audience here that you'd just like to end on?
Oh gosh, let's see. Consider Byte. I gotta always be selling. Consider Byte. We're here and happy to have discussions and brainstorm on how we can be the right solution. So I appreciate you having me on, Derek.
Yeah, I really appreciate having you on. I think the world of your product. I use it every day in our corporate cafeteria here. Makes my life a lot easier. And then, Megan, I ended, but one question just popped into my head that I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
How do you envision Byte Technology, and how do you envision yourself and the company kind of either changing the landscape or influencing the industries you're in different directions? Do you think you guys are doing something that's going to leave a mark on the industry, or just be kind of, not just be, but be kind of a different nuanced way to go? Or do you think there's going to be some changes in the industry because of the success you guys are having?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I'm seeing it. I can state with very strong conviction, I think there's going to be unattended retail solutions on every in every hospital, on every college campus, and all the workplaces. And we're one of the longest standing, completely unattended checkout free solutions with the ability to do that. So I think we are making a long-standing impact, but like I said, I think we're on the bleeding edge right now. So we were at a conference over the last couple of years. We go to a large higher education conference for food service professionals, and 2 years ago we had to explain what we do. And this past year, it's people coming up saying, "Oh, we're looking at implementing an unattended solution, smart fridges." So I see that shift already happening, but we still are in the early innings.
Yeah. Well, you could tell I'm not a podcast host by trade because I'm going to ask you one last question. Apologies.
No worries.
You brought something there about the higher education. Have you guys started to get into, coolers, freezers, et cetera, for the larger academic institutions that have a big sports programs? I know with health and wellness, with athletics out there in that world, that is a huge component. And so are you guys doing stuff in that realm as well in the higher education space?
Yes, absolutely. Higher ed and healthcare are two fastest growing segments.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Within higher ed, I think there's the need of students. Students are night owls, and they have, they need to eat whenever they need to eat. There's, special dietary needs where clients are putting the special dietary need food within Byte kiosks specifically. There's athletic departments. There's, there's kind of an endless list of use cases within higher education.
Well, I appreciate you, not to end now for a second time, but Megan, thank you so much for coming on, and you guys are busy, so I appreciate you making the time. For all those out there listening, please reach out to Megan and her team. I think their product's great, even to have a conversation. If you haven't done it, please subscribe to see when this and other future episodes are going to come out. And everyone, Megan, thank you for joining. Listeners out there, thank you for joining the Outsource Advantage, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, Megan.
Thanks, Derek.